Hello everybody, Kuribo Master here, and today I have yet another Elemental Hero deck profile. For those of you who haven't seen my first one, you can check it out, but I will say this one is better. Now, it is not completely finished yet. I mean, any deck can improve in certain places, but I would say this is actually a pretty dang good Elemental Hero deck, and it's super fun to use. I want to start with the extra deck. This is it is a 15 card deck, extra deck, and so let's look at all of these cards here. So we have Elemental Hero Shining Flare Wingman, Elemental Hero Plasma Vice, Elemental Hero Great Tornado, Elemental Hero The Shining, Blade Armor Ninja, for when there are lots of level 4 monsters in this deck, so Blade Armor Ninja really helps, especially maybe in those tough spots where you just aren't drawing into Polymerization or any of the other cards like that. Elemental Hero Escurideo, I think it is. Elemental Hero Flame Wingman, Elemental Hero Wild Wingman, Elemental Hero Thunder Giant, another Flame Wingman. You can definitely replace that with something, but yeah, it's another Flame Wingman if you want to use that more. Elemental Hero Wild Edge, Elemental Hero Gaia, Elemental Hero Nova Master, Terra Firma, and Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. So we do have all of the how should I say, like, generic heroes, I guess you could call them, but they're not exactly, I don't know. They're really cool though. They're easy to summon, and especially when you're in a tight spot, they can really help out. Anyway, guys, so that is our extra deck, and I can explain some of it as we go along. First, we'll start out with the monsters in the main decks. Here are the monsters that I have in my main deck. Let's go. So first, we have Elemental Hero Woodsman. Very useful. It has pretty good defense. I mean, it's not amazing. It's not impossible to get around or anything like that, but it is decent defense. And during your standby phase, you can add a Polymerization from your deck to your hand, deck or graveyard to your hand. So it can be super useful for getting Polymerization in your hand, and it can also be useful for things like, I guess, if you want to, you know, recycle Polymerization, like I said before, and summoning Elemental Hero Terra Firma, and that's basically it. But he is a cool card. My next one is Wing Kuribo. Wing Kuribo is actually super useful, especially when you're in a tight spot. Like, for example, if your opponent just so happens to get the other hand and you just need an extra turn, you can throw out Wing Kuribo, and he just kind of helps everything roll along. The next one is Elemental Hero Necroshade. Now, Necroshade, some people might argue that he's not exactly amazing because he sometimes takes up space with one tribute in the deck. But in all reality, like, if you use things like Elemental Hero Prisma, which we have 3 of in this deck, then you can easily get him into the graveyard so that you can take advantage of his effect really easily. And that's why he's in this deck. And we do have 1 Blade Edge, so, you know, it may be helpful in some case scenarios, and even then, maybe if you want to use a Dark Monster for Escurideo or whatever, I think that would be super useful. And, alright, let's go to my next card. Elemental Hero Burstinatrix, Flame Wingman, Elemental Hero Blade Edge, we have Ocean to fuse with Woodsman, if we want to, or just to get an Elemental Hero into our hand from our graveyard or side of the field, but I don't know why you would want someone from the side of your field. Elemental Hero Avion, he can be very useful, especially for things like getting out Great Tornado, and for things like getting out Elemental Hero Flame Wingman. Next up, Wildheart. Great, we have some Wildheart fusions in this deck, and also, as far as Wildheart goes, he can be targeted by, he's unaffected by the effect of traps, so that's really good. Neospatian Grand Mole. Now, he is awesome to have in this deck, or just sometimes any deck in general. I mean, I guess that's kind of going a little too far to say that, but he is still a very cool card to have, especially like if your opponent gets out at like a huge monster and then you just like, nope, I have Grand Mole, so that's why I like Grand Mole. Our next is we have, hold on, let's take the rest out. We have 3 Prismas. 3 Prisma is useful because basically we only really have, besides Sparkman, 1 of every hero in this deck. Well, I guess we wouldn't say every hero, but each hero copy we usually only have one besides like Prisma and stuff like that. And the reason we have 3 is he's kind of like the engine of the deck. He really helps you go along. And also, he's just really useful. It makes this deck so basically you may have only one copy of each, but even though you only have one copy of each, you can use Prisma and it feels like you don't, like you have multiple copies. So it kind of just helps the deck work like that, allows for a lot more variety in the deck itself, and that's why I like to run it like this. Next one is 2 Sparkman. Now, the reason I run 2 Sparkman is because we have 3 King of the Swamp. And with our 3 King of the Swamp, it's very likely that we'll run into Sparkman and King of the Swamp. And we can easily get things like, let's look at them here. Elemental Hero, Shining Flare Wingman out. And he's really cool. And very, very good. Alright, our next is 3 King of the Swamp. Now, King of the Swamp is useful in many case scenarios, especially for this deck. We have lots of substitutes in this deck, and they are very crucial. And basically, he can be substituted for those of you who don't know, he can be substituted for any one fusion material. The other one must be correct, and you can also send him to the graveyard to add a polymerization from your deck to your hand. So he's very useful for that as well. So let's look at our next one. Rottweiler. Basically, when he's destroyed, you can add a polymerization and an elemental hero from your graveyard to your hand, which is very useful for recycling your heroes. Alright, next up we have Fusion Gate. Now, Fusion Gate is useful because it's just a card that allows you to fusion summon right there, just banish the fusion material while it's a field spell, and yeah, it can be really useful for this deck. Now, some may argue that this deck could go without it, but I like to run one of them. You know, they can be really helpful at times, especially when you have things like Elemental Hero, The Shining, and you get lots of banished heroes. So yeah, and here let's look at The Shining right here, Elemental Hero, The Shining. So yeah. Our next is 1 Super Polymerization. Now, I would run 2 or 3, but unfortunately, it's limited right now. So, yeah, 1 Super Polymerization. Great card. Mystical Space Typhoon and an R of Righteous Justice, basically just our trap and spell defense. I have a little bit more of that in here, too. 3 E Emergency Call. Allows you to search your heroes. You can also run Reinforcement of the Army, but I only run 3 E-Call because I like to have lots of things like polymerization and stuff. I like to kind of like prioritize as far as how much search power I have, and I have lots of those elemental hero things, like I have lots of Prisma and stuff like that, so it kind of makes up. Next is, I think, 3 Miracle Fusion. Yeah, 3 Miracle Fusion. So if you have some elemental heroes that you just fused, you can use Miracle Fusion and make another fusion monster. So it can be super useful. 3 Polymerization, which is very cool. And I have 3 in here just so we can easily get Polymerization in our hands so that we can fusion summon. Pretty self-explanatory. And 1 Bottomless Trap Hole, very helpful. I think that's self-explanatory too. Most of this stuff is. Hero Signal. If your monster is destroyed, you can search a hero. Mirror Force, I have 2 of those, just to defend your heroes. That's very important in this deck, defending your heroes, making sure they don't die easily. Next up is Compulsory Evacuation Device, self-explanatory. We have Dimensional Prison, that's self-explanatory too. It's really helpful, especially if there's like a monster that can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, you just banish it. So, Dark Bribe, we have 2 Dark Bribe. Trap and spell defense, and our final is Wiretap and more trap defense. Alright guys, so this is the updated version. As the Hero Strike comes out, I will probably have some more Elemental Hero deck profiles that I put together, but for now, this is my most updated one. I think it's really cool. Tell me what you guys think, and yeah, try it out, see what you think, and I will see you later. Subscribe.